All right, so I'll go ahead and start asking you the questions, okay?
Okay.
Number one, where did you go to school? State, county, city, the details.
I was born and raised in Liberty Town, Maryland. So I went to a one room schoolhouse in Liberty Town from the grades 1 through 4. And then that's when the schools became integrated. And then I started going to, we call it the white school, up the hill from the one room school. And that was in the 5th grade. So I went to school in Frederick County, but my uh, first through 5th grade was in Liberty Town, Maryland, and then that's when we moved to um, oh, and then I went to Linganore. I went to Linganore. I'm sorry, I went to Linganore from the through the 10th grade, and then we moved to Frederick, Maryland, and then I graduated from Frederick High School.
My condolences on the Linganore thing. Number two, what year
Okay,
did you?
I have fond memories of Linganore High School.
I'll just, as an Urbana graduate, I'm just saying. What year did you graduate from high school, and what is your highest level of education?
My highest level of education is a high school graduate, and I graduated in 1967.
Okay. How was education perceived in your community?
Perceived,
Hmm.
I can only base it on how I perceived it, and I perceived it as I got a good education. It was to me it was well rounded, and I really have nothing but fond memories of um, my education in the Frederick County school system during the time when I was in school.
How much were your parents involved in your educational and
Well, not so much. They would ask me every night if I had homework or if I brought homework home.
Mhm.
They would make sure that I did it, but they really didn't help a whole lot with the homework. But they did try to, make sure that I did do my homework. Sometimes I remember my mom asked me if I did the project or whatever that I brought home, but I don't remember my parents being so much involved in in my homework, projects.
was there anyone you knew that was involved in the school system and was also a part of other aspects in your community, such as like a church or a sports league or anything of that?
And again,
Yeah. Was there anyone you knew that was involved in the school system that was also a part of other aspects within your community, such as like a church or the sports leagues or anything like that?
how when I was in school,
Absolutely. This is all about you during when you were
all
in
about
school.
me.
Yeah.
Um, no, not so much.
Okay.
I, I mean, I know when I got in high school, there were people in my neighborhood that were teachers or administrative people in the school, but they weren't in my circle. But
Mhm.
once we moved to Frederick and I started going to Frederick High School, there were people and neighbors, some neighbors that were in the Frederick High School system that were teachers or um, janitors and involved in some aspect capacity of in the Frederick County school system. But I mean, as far as you're saying that I knew either, they were neighbors and community people.
Okay. You did already answer this question, but I'll just go down the list and you can be succinct on this one as you want. Did you go to a racially segregated school relative to your experience? That's something that's just going to be a standard question.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, I
Mhm.
started going to school in let's see, I was born in 49. I started going to school in like 55.
Okay.
And so it was a one room, all black, one room school in Liberty Town. And I went there until they integrated the schools. And I forget the year that happened, but anyway, once the schools became integrated, we had a whole the white principal from the school that we were going to be going to came down to our little community in Liberty Town, talked to all the black families, and told us what was going to happen. and assured the parents that everything was going to be fine. Of course, there was some people that were concerned about how we were going to be treated, but the principal, whose name was Harry O. Smith, assured my parents and assured the community in Liberty Town, the black community in Liberty Town, that he would not tolerate any kind of name calling or anything like that. And if they heard about it, he wanted to know about it right away. And he lived up to his word, because he certainly did not tolerate any kind of. I've seen it with my own eyes how that he did not tolerate any of that, and I didn't experience it, but yes, it was a one room school that we went to. Then we went to the once we went to the integrated school with the white students. My experience was, I have to say, was very good. It was a very good experience. But it was there were some people that had some concerns, and rightfully so. But I didn't have any bad experiences at that time.
Okay. Uh, what were the benefits and disadvantages of going to a segregated school from your perspective?
Well, the advantages certainly was that there were more. I do remember when we were going to the one room schoolhouse. Of course, the big white school always had a big playground. Had a big playground with all kinds of equipment. So on the weekends, me and my cousins would walk up to that school and play on their playground equipment. And I would look through the window of that school, and I saw all these shiny new desks and all these books and all these materials and bright posters on the walls, and we never had any of that. I mean, in the school that I went to, it was a one-room school with no electricity and a outhouse in the back of the school, and a bucket of water was in the back of the school and back of the room with a ladle that we shared to drink water from. So, of course, when we went to the new school, or to the white school, there were new books with covers on them, because all we got was hand-me-downs from the other
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
Outdated materials, I'm sure it was. But so the advantage was that we got new books with new materials, and they had covers. The books had covers on, which sometimes, a lot of times, we didn't even have the binders on the books. And so the advantage was that we got new materials and updated materials, and it wasn't secondhand um, materials that we used for our classroom instructions.
How did going to a segregated school impact you today?
School,
Mm-hmm. How did
well,
going to the segregated school impact you?
like I said, it was only the first through the fourth grade. So I was in the classroom with all my cousins, because I was born and raised in the community that I was born and raised in. I was surrounded by all my cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents. So when I started going to school, it was with all my cousins and family members. Um, so the experience that I had was, I mean, I loved it. I loved school, and of course, being surrounded by cousins, and all my cousins was always a lot of fun. There was one teacher, her name is Miss Helen Laws, and she did her best to teach, because it was like first through sixth grade was all in one room. So she would give the first graders an assignment, and then she'd move to the second graders, and then she'd give them an assignment, and she'd move. I don't know how she did it, but she always gave us each an assignment or something to do, so she could move on to the next higher grade to get to everybody, all the students. But the advantage was I have to say that I I I enjoyed it. I don't know what the disadvantages was, other than not having any plumbing and not having any electricity. But at the time, that's the way things were. So it wasn't a disadvantage to me, because that's the way I grew up. So I don't
Mm.
look at it as a disadvantage, because that was the way of life when I was young. I'm an old woman, remember, so my experience was totally different than you young people out here today.
No need to age shame. Next question. When I'll just play. When when you experienced integration, what was the mood like? Do you remember in the school that you were moving from that was segregated into integration? And did that impact you positively or
Hmm.
negatively?
It was positive. I'll never forget it when the day of the transition happened. All the students from the white school walked down. It was only like maybe 2 block, 3 block walk to our one room classroom, and they assembled outside in the schoolyard, under the one room classroom schoolyard, and they called us out of the school by grades. And I'll never forget this one girl, and we became good friends in school. Her name was Linda Horton. She took me by the hand that day, and we walked up to the white school um, together, and she never let go of my hand. We walked into her classroom together, and she showed me around, and I don't know whether the teacher told her to or what, but she just stood by me and helped me through the transition of learning where everything was at. Showed me around, and we sat together in the classroom, and it was just a very good experience. And we were friends through um, through the 5th grade, 6th grade, and then when we went to Linganore, she also went to Linganore. So even in high school, junior high school, we were friends. But the transition was very, very, very comfortable and very easy for me. Mr. Harry O. Smith, the principal, he's a very cordial, jovial. He was the biggest, tallest, white man I've ever seen, but he was the most gentle person, teddy bear. And he always stood in the hallways and monitored those hallways and made sure that there was no issues when we were changing classes, or when anytime there was the kids were congregating in the hallways, he was always there to make sure that there was no kind of issues. So I felt very comfortable, and I felt like I was being taken care of, and I felt very comfortable because Mr. Smith, the principal, he did what he said he was going to do, and he watched very carefully over us at the time, and I felt very comfortable about the whole thing. I felt safe. Yeah, very safe, and I cannot remember a time when I felt uncomfortable or uneasy or like I did not belong.
What was your initial reaction to the idea of integrating schools?
Sorry, say it again.
What was your initial reaction to the idea of integrating schools?
I was excited about it when I was told about it because, like I said, when we were playing on the playground and I peeked inside those classrooms and saw all those books and all the shelves and shelves of books and all the desks. Because even when we were in school, we had to share desks. Me and another student had to share those desks with a little a platform in the front.
Mm-hmm.
We shared desks. So to have a desk all by yourself, I was very excited. And like I said, when I looked through the classroom windows and saw all the books and all the materials that those students had access to, I was looking so forward to it. And once I got to the school, it was exciting for me because I love to learn. So when I had access to all those new materials and all those books and everything, it was a very, very exciting experience for me, and I can only say that I enjoyed it.
What impact did these interactions with other races have on you and the way that you view racial issues?
Because I was born and raised in Liberty Town, and
Mm-hmm.
I lived on a street they called it the back street. The proper name is North Street, but everybody called it the back street. And so I had lots of cousins to play with. Me and all my cousins, we always played with each other. But there was a segment of white kids in Liberty Town that we came to know, that we also learned to play with and visited with in in the school. I mean, in Liberty Town. So it was not uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was already used to going to or hanging out with the white students, white kids. And I do have an experience when I went to Liberty Town, the white school. I'll share with you real quick is when we were studying on the Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
and the movie Gone with the Wind was playing at the Tivoli Theater in Frederick, which is now the Weinberg Center. But at the
Okay.
time, it was the Tivoli Theater, which was integrated. I'm sorry, was segregated, and they did have a loft upstairs that said colored only. And one of the extracurricular things that they did for the Civil War period was to we took a field trip into the Tivoli to watch the movie, the Civil War movie about called Gone with the Wind. And in Liberty Town, the black parents had to sign off on it to get permission, sign a permission slip to let us go. And because some of the parents were concerned that we were not going to be allowed to sit with our white counterparts, they didn't allow their kids to go to the school, go to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
My parents did, and I got to go, and I had never been to a movie theater before, so that was my first experience at a movie theater. My parents gave me the permission to go, and when we went in to the theater, I didn't have to sit in the colored only section. I don't know whether they made arrangements ahead of time or what, but I got to sit downstairs with my class, and that was a wonderful experience, and I'll never forget that. But I'm sure if the other students, my cousins mostly, knew that that was what they were going to allow them to do, they probably would have went as well. But that's an experience that I'll never forget. That I was allowed to sit downstairs in the section, in the integrated section. I mean, the section where the white people would sit at, and I didn't have to sit upstairs in the colored section.
What positive or negative impact has integration had on Black students in Europe?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
No, you're fine. What positive or negative impact has integration had on Black students in Europe?
The positive thing on integration was that you learn how to, in my opinion, you learn how to tolerate and people that are different than you. You learn how to, you learn a little bit about their culture, which although we're all humans and we all are, live in the same community, but our culture is different. There are things about our food, the church we go to, how we interact in church, how our church is. That's all different. So I mean, you learn that other people their lifestyle is a little bit is different than yours, but so I think it taught you tolerance and acceptance, even though people are different. I think that's the advantage. Um, the disadvantage, I didn't see any. I didn't think there was any disadvantages to it. The positive thing to get us all to blend together, join together, and learn about each other and be comfortable with each other. So it was no, I didn't see it as a disadvantage.
These next two questions are the same but different, but I think that you'll probably be able to answer them pretty succinctly. Have you ever had a teacher of a different race? Mm-hmm.
Than me? Oh yes.
Yes.
Um, the when the schools were integrated, and I went to the Liberty Elementary School, the white school.
Mhm.
All the teachers were white. There were no. I don't think there was any black teachers at that time. I don't know what happened to Miss Helen Lyles, the teacher in the one room schoolhouse. I know she did not. They did not transfer her up to the school, and I felt sorry about that. Um,
Mhm.
and I often wondered what happened to her. But she was getting old, so she probably just retired. But no, I did not have any. All the teachers that I had at Liberty Elementary were all white teachers, and I have there was no negative interaction between me and those teachers. I always had good relationships with my teachers at the time. Um, so there was no disadvantage to to the integration and me being exposed to to the white teachers.
Yeah, and I assume that you answered the second question, which is you have of the same race was the person, of course, that you had prior to integration. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Then I'll move on to the next question.
Okay.
Did you feel that the teachers slash faculty were fair towards you from the perspective of their treatment of you compared to other races in the class?
So I always felt that they were. I another story, which now that I look back on it as an adult, people might look at it differently, or look at it as sideways. But I can remember when I went to it was a time for us to get our pictures taken for class pictures every year they do the class pictures and the individual pictures, and of course parents always they dress us up and make us look nice for that day, for when they know pictures are being taken. Well, my mom did my hair, and all that with the and put a little nice dress on me, and um I remember going to school that day, and I'll never forget, her name is Miss Roop, Roop, Miss Roop. She, I don't know what about me that stood out, but she must have thought that I looked exceptionally nice that day. But when I walked into school that day and into the classroom, my room, where she was my teacher, she took me by the hand and took me like to around to like two or three different classrooms, like I was a show and tell person, because and she gushed over how nice I looked. At the time I felt good about myself, and you know, I felt special. But when I look back on it, I think about, what was so unique about me, this young black child that was just dressed up for her school pictures, that she thought it was necessary, or felt that she needed to take me around and show me off to the other teachers. So today, if somebody did that, it probably would be looked at differently. But at the time, she made me feel good about myself, and made me feel special. But it's like it was something unique or different about the fact that this black student could stand out, or could, you know, make herself look presentable or whatever, because that's what she, when she was taking me around to the other teachers to show off, and they were just making so much over me about how nice I looked, and how, my mother had me dressed and everything. So, like I said, I felt good about it at the time, but it might not be looked upon like that, in today's time.
It's interesting. Next question: did integration somehow change your view or understanding of what being black in America means to you?
I always knew that. I always knew that there was a place, that I always was under the impression that you could get along. You could get along as long as you knew your place. So
Hmm.
I got along with everyone, I felt, and I had a good rapport with the white teachers, and with the principal, and with um, my students, because I knew my place. I didn't. I I didn't. I wasn't confrontational. I always was congenial. I always knew that I should. I don't know what the word is, but I don't think I wasn't. What's the word, Shirley? I don't know the word I want to use. I wasn't confrontational. I was easy to get along with. I made sure that well, the best thing I can say is I just knew my place. And I knew the best way to get along with everybody, it was just don't rock the boat, Linda. So I was always the nice person. I was always the congenial person. I was always the voice of reason. I didn't intimidate anybody, and I think that's what helped me to get along with the white students and with the teachers, when I went to school. And not only just when I went to school, in today's world, I've always been that way. So
Hmm.
that's what I learned at an early age. You have to, in order to get along, and to make your way in this world, you just have to, sometimes you have to, bite your tongue and not say what's really on your mind, but and I'm not so much like that now, but when I was younger, I did it a lot. But I know I did realize that that's how I got along with everyone, and how I made friends, and I'm friends with some of those students to this day. We're in touch with each other, and I'm glad about that. I feel good about that.
Next question. What was your academic progress? Let me ask it another way. I'm sorry. Was your academic progress slowed, steadied, or increased once you had started attending the integrated school?
Increased once I
Okay.
started attending the integrated schools, because we had better materials. I wanted to learn, so I was like a sponge, and I soaked everything up. And so in my education increased tremendously, and I think it was a big part of it was because we had the materials that we needed um, to learn. Because, like I said before, we were using hand me down materials, and I'm sure a lot of them was outdated, and so we weren't exposed to the current materials that the kids were using to increase their education. But once we went to the integrated schools, I had access to all the modern technology at that time, and
Hmm.
it just increased my curiosity and increased my education.
We're gonna kind of ask you to kind of expand upon the conversational exchanges that went on between you and your parents or your guardian, whichever case may be, in terms of having to change schools, your experience in the new situation, and then their experience with the faculty at the new school.
Like I said, Mr. Harry O. Smith came to our when we had to change schools to go to the integrated school. Mr. Harry O. Smith came to our homes and talked to my parents about the integration, when it was going to happen, and what to expect, and tried to calm everybody's concerns about what was how it was going to happen and how we would be received. And the only thing I can vaguely remember, um, mom telling us to just behave ourselves, don't cause any problems, and also to let her know if there was any issues that if there weren't any issues at school, to let her know about it. But for the most part, it was just go to school, behave yourself, and don't cause any problems. That was basically what the conversation was.
How did the teacher slash faculty's attitude towards you impact your education and school system as a whole? Oh, how did the teachers or the faculty's attitude towards you impact upon you as far as your education or the school system was going?
Their
Uh,
attitude,
yeah, their attitude towards you.
like I said, I had a very good rapport with throughout my whole school year, through my school career.
Mm-hmm.
I always had a very good rapport with my teachers, and so their attitude toward me was I'd have to say was very good, and they made me want to learn. They made me want to go to school. Um, at the time, I never thought about furthering my education. I mean, maybe I might have thought about it, but I didn't. That was something that we never discussed at the time. So every my whole experience as far as what we did after graduation was you go to school, you graduate, you get a job. Um, college was not college was not something we even talked about during my time. My
That
daughter
actually
was the first one in our immediate family, that went to college, and that was a whole new experience for all of us. So we rode that journey with her. But as far as the attitude of the teachers, I have to say that in my experience, the attitude was wonderful. They were very congenial. They were they always, I always felt very comfortable with the teachers, and I felt that they were nurturing. They were, they gave us all the attention that was needed, and I didn't see any differential between the way they treated me and the way they treated the white students in my experience. Now there may be some people that had a different experience, but in my experience, it was my experience with the teachers was very, very. I was very comfortable and felt very welcome and very at ease in my classrooms.
Along those lines, I'll make this two questions into one. Along those same lines, I think you already touched on it kind of, but uh, did you feel the teachers could relate or understood your educational intentions? And also, did you feel the curriculum was biased in any way? Why or why?
Is thought about what we never talked about what my educational intentions was. Like I said, I lived in a different era when that wasn't even,
Thing, yeah.
it wasn't not now maybe they talked to the white students about it and didn't talk to the black students about it. I don't know how that went. But we never talked about furthering education. That was not a part of the conversation in during my time. And what was the second part of that question?
The other part is actually another question altogether, but I rolled into one, so forgive me for that. Did the
Okay.
curriculum that you learned, was it biased to you in any way? And if so or not, why or why not? And how did that
Well,
impact
at the time when I was in school, I didn't think of it as bias.
you?
I learned what I learned with what was available to me. Of course, years later, we learned that there was a lot of things in those school books and that we were taught in the classroom that didn't give us the whole story as far as the contribution that the African American made to the country. Um, so that wasn't taught. But at the time when I was being taught, I never thought of it as being biased. I just thought that was our education. It was what it was, and that's what was accepted. And like I said, it wasn't until years. Yeah, I didn't question it, but years later, I realized that there's a lot um, in the history books then that we weren't a lot in our history that we weren't taught that weren't or were not in our history books.
What was your most positive and most negative memory from the teachers that you had?
If my experience,
But wait a minute, now. He's not just talking about your transition from segregation to. He's talking about your
my whole
whole experience.
yeah, you're talking about throughout my whole
Well,
Correct.
12 years of school.
Correct.
My experience and my of was good. I never had any. I have to say it might sound weird, but I never had a bad experience because, like I said, I learned at an early age to what's the saying? Something get along to do something along to get along.
said it.
Go
Now I
along
don't
to get
know,
along.
huh? Go
Go
along to
along to
get
get along.
along.
Okay.
Go along to get along. I don't know, but I did. I was very much one of those people that I went along with the program so I could get along with the program, and so I was not an. I didn't. I wasn't a threatening person. I wasn't an intimidating person. So the teachers and students, I was approachable. So I had a very, very good rapport with my teachers throughout my 12 years of school. So I have to say that I had a very good rapport with all of my teachers. I always felt that they had my best interest in hand. Um, when they sent notes home to my parents, it was always a positive feedback. They always told my parents that I was a good listener or I was participating in the classroom or whatever the case may be. And so I felt that they seen me. And as far as negative, I can only tell you from my own experience, I did not have any negative experiences in my classrooms and with any teachers that I had. I cannot recall a negative experience with a teacher.
Did you ever feel that you represented all black people in school, and if so, how did that impact?
Skip something. I mean, you're the. I didn't hear this one
Oh, you
part
hear
of
the whole
that. Say
thing?
it again.
I can repeat it.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel as if you represented all black people while you were in school, and if so, how did that impact?
I feel that I represented all black people
Yes.
in
Uh
school.
huh. Uh huh.
No, no, I did not.
Okay.
I did not. And I say that because not always, but there were times when I would be teased by the some of my counterparts for being too white, talking too white, being too white. Um, so and because of that, I don't think I was looked at as being the atypical black student in school. Because I think it's because I did get along with everyone, black and white. But yet I think I don't think I was looked upon as a representation of all black students. No, I don't think I really was. I
Mm.
wasn't. I
Have
mean,
you?
and I'm gonna say I wasn't. I'm not gonna. I wasn't real the most popular girl in school, but I kind of was in a circle of popular people, and sometimes I was on the fringes of those people. But I always was kind of in the mix of things when I was in school. So I felt like, I felt like I was not popular, but I felt like I was in a clique with
Mm.
with the popular people, and I felt very comfortable, and I never felt like an outsider, even in my with the black students. I always felt like I was. Everybody knew who Linda Roberts was. You know, I wasn't in the shadows. Everybody knew who I was.
Have you ever
So I have to.
experienced? Oh,
But go ahead,
no, no, no. Go ahead. You
go ahead,
finish.
babe.
I thought you were. I thought you were
No,
done.
I don't know what I'm even getting ready to say. I'm just going to emphasize that just that I don't think I was a. You could say that I was a representative of the students in my black students in my school because I I didn't try to look at people as white people and black. I knew my students were white, of course, but I tried not to make that the focus of my relationship with them. Then some of the students that I went to black students that I went to school with, for some reason they didn't feel comfortable and they didn't act comfortable around white students and around their white counterparts. And it showed, and so some of the students gave them a wide berth. But again, that was
White
not,
students get it.
and the white students gave them a wide berth. So that was kind of that was their thing. So that was probably their experience. It wasn't mine.
Have you experienced or felt or seen a stigma attached to black students doing well in school?
That again.
Have you experienced or felt or seen the stigma attached to black students doing well in school in
Oh
your
yeah.
experience?
Yes. They because it's considered you're being too white or you think you're better than that kind of thing. Um and I was an average student. I mean, I was an average student. I got B's and C's, some A's, but I was mostly a right down the middle B and C student. Um but I did notice that, in my opinion, the students that did do very well, ones that did have the aspirations to go to college, um, they were looked upon and they were stigmatized, be, and did not have such a warm reception in the circle of black students at times, and I think it was because the students might have felt like they were better than, or they thought they were better than, or maybe they were a little jealous. I don't know what it was.
The white people experience, how did they treat you?
They said that you're asking about white people in particular, how they felt about it. Is that what you're asking
Oh no,
me?
no. It was it whomever. It's kind of like no, no, no. The question is kind of getting towards actually the idea of um, Like, did people feel as if if you did well in school, you were trying to be white, or if you did well in school, that's
Yeah,
from both the
I
white
think
and black people.
I think they got they definitely got that from that was the mindset of some of the black students. Um, I think
You didn't get that from
I
the
don't
white students, though.
from the white kids they probably felt comfortable with it. Some of them probably didn't. Maybe
Mm.
because at the time, like I said, that was during the during the 50s and 60s when we were supposed to all of us were supposed to know our place, and maybe the white kids felt a little intimidated by it because this black student is doing well in school and talking about college and getting a further education. Maybe they did feel uncomfortable. I can't speak to that. I never saw that, but it probably was there. But as far as the black students, I know that there were some black students that felt a little intimidated and felt, and I think it was part of it was jealousy because of, so there were some students that did very well in school and had aspirations of going to college and did go to college. And I think there was a jealousy factor with that. Um, with some of the students.
Do you feel that your generation values education as an essential part to their lives? Why or why not?
Now, I'm
Yeah.
sure it does.
Okay.
When I was growing up, it was not so much a thing. Furthering our education beyond, going to school and, graduation was not a thing that was discussed. But now, at my age and seeing the world as it is, I certainly see a much, much higher percentage of students in my kids in my circle of friends, have grandkids and kids that went to college. Much much higher percentage than it was when I was in school. Like I said, my daughter, who's now 53 years old, she was the first one in my immediate family that got a college education. We were so, I always thought that was something that was out of reach for me to send. I was a
Mm.
single parent at the time, and when she started talking to me about going to college, I didn't want to discourage it, but I thought this is certainly something that I'm not able to do. We can't make that happen. But I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to break her spirit, so I didn't want to tell her that this is something that we're not able to do. But um, thankfully, there was a young black man at Frederick High School. He was I forget what his title was. I think he was the counselor of some sort. But he came to my home and visited me and sit down with me and told me, he said, "You realize your daughter is college material." Of course, I knew Kimmy did very well in school, but I didn't know that I didn't even know what college material meant. But he said, and I said, "Well, I know she did well in school," but he said, "You can make that happen. You're a single." He said, "You've got everything that you need to get your daughter in school. You're black, you're a woman, and um, and your daughter has a GPA that will get you, all these scholarships and something called a Pell Grant, which I didn't know anything about. All these grants he was telling me about that I had access to. Well, because no one in my family went to college, he was all talking to me a foreign language. It might as well been because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know anything about it. But he's one that let me know that there was a way to do this, and sure enough, I followed his lead. He gave me some paperwork and had me fill out all these documents, and next thing I know, all these grants was coming in for my daughter to go to college. But I think a good part of it back then, when I was had a college age student, was the fact that you didn't have the experience or the education to know that, you know it looked going sending your child to college was something that was out of the realm of scope of something that was possible. But luckily, this man, and I wish I could thank him today for educating me about the fact that I was able to send my daughter, and she went to a 4-year college, and
Now
now
to get her master's degree.
went on to get her master's degree, and now she's teaching in New York City at a performing arts school and doing very well. And I have that young man to thank for that because he's the one that came to me and told me you can make this happen. So, but
It's great
education,
stuff.
furthering our education, then when I was that age, that's something that we didn't talk about. We didn't, and that was fine. I mean, like I said, you went to school, you graduated, you got a job, and that's what I did.
And
We're gonna
there's
go.
nothing.
So those last 5 or 6 questions. This is the last 5 or 6 questions of the thing. It's going to be
Okay.
a broader perspective of it. Okay, just so you're
Okay.
aware. What do you feel is the number one reason for the academic achievement gap between blacks and other races when it comes to education?
Ask that question again.
Yeah. What do you feel is the number one reason for the academic achievement gap between blacks and other races?
Finances.
Okay.
Um,
That's
finances, I think, is a big part of it.
Not
And
knowing where you
and not knowing black people not knowing that there is funds out there for you. But I'll never forget when I was watching the news during an election cycle, and I think it was I don't know the name of the politician, but he said on TV that I think it was I don't know I'm not gonna say what it because I might
okay.
be misquoting his name, but he said just assuming that everybody had this situation. He said that if kids want to go to college, if your students want to go to college, you parents were supposed to um, they were supposed to look to their parents for the funds to be able to go to college. Like he knew that everybody had that. To him, that was a normal thing, probably because that's what was normal for him. And I thought to
Mm-hmm.
myself, well, at that time, he has no clue. Everybody doesn't have that generational wealth in their
Mm-hmm.
family. But this white politician said something to the effect of the fact that students can go to college because their parents are able to send them, and because of the generational wealth that can be handed down. And I thought to myself, that they so are so far from knowing that that's not even a possibility in a lot of people's lives. But that was for him, it was like automatic, like he just naturally thought that's how people do things, not knowing that and I'm sure there's white people that don't have that as well. But to me, the money is the one deterrent um, for students that want to go to school, and not knowing that there are grants and money out there. You just have to know where to find it. Because
Do
believe
you?
me,
Oh,
I have learned through the years that white people know where to find free money. They know where to
huh.
find it. You know, black people not so much, but white people know where to find free money. And I've learned that if I haven't learned anything else.
That's a quote. I'm writing that down somewhere. Do you do you feel the integration of schools worked for black students? Why or why not?
Integration works for black people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it did. I think it was a good thing that they integrated the schools, and that because otherwise we would not have gotten the education that we needed. Now, through the years, it probably would have gotten better, and possibly, hopefully, it would have. But based on what I saw as when I went to that one room schoolhouse,
Mm-hmm.
um, and looking at the education that those students had access to versus what we had access to at that time, I can't imagine us ever catching up. If we remained segregated, I I don't think that we would have ever completely 100% caught up with the education that the white students were receiving. So I think it was definitely a good thing that the schools became integrated and we had access to the same education that the white students had.
Do you believe the American education system, as currently constructed, is fair to all people?
I have to say that it is probably not. I also want to say that by saying you have to put yourself out there. Black people need to be more assertive when it comes to getting what they want. I think sometimes we have a tendency to hold back and not ask for what we want, or not pursue it. We give up because we do have more hurdles to jump over to get to where we need to be. And I think sometimes we get frustrated and just give up. So I think that it's not fair in that way, but you have to make it fair. You have to just work harder. Unfortunately, that's the way it is to get where you need to be, and it does mean you have to work harder and be aggressive to get what you need and what you want. But and that's the only way it's going to work. I mean, and maybe that's not in all cases, but I think for the average black person to get the education that they want, I think they have to work twice as hard at it to to be able to receive that education in some cases.
Based off of your experience, what do you think would improve the school system in America at all?
My experience, say it again.
Yeah, based on your experience, what do you think would improve the school system in America at all levels?
Improve the school system at all levels.
Mhm.
School system. I think just trying to be as inclusive as they possibly can. Um, for some reason in our school system now, we have a lot of children that are special needs,
Mhm.
and we need to. I think the teachers need to be better educated and trained on how to deal with special needs kids. Um, and all, not only that, there are kids that don't have, unfortunately, don't have access. Like there's homeless students but they're going to school. They're homeless, and those are the kind of things that we need to be aware of. And it's unfortunate, and the teachers are there to teach, but unfortunately, teachers have to be other things other than a teacher these days. My daughter's a teacher, and I listen to her talk about some of the things that she's involved in, when it comes to her students. And, as far as, making sure they have food and that kind of thing. And I said, wait a minute, what are you're teaching? Why do you have to worry about, feeding these kids? But she says, Mom, that's the way it is now. We have to make sure the kids eat. So,
Mhm.
so those are the things that I think teachers are challenged with today is dealing with special needs students and being trained properly for that aspect of the student body. There's homeless kids that apparently need attention that the teachers may not have, the proper training and the tools for. So that's the one thing that I think there needs to be improvement in is training the teachers properly to take care of these students that are on the fringes that I think sometimes get overlooked. And unfortunately, that's teachers have to wear multiple hats today. And when I was in school, that wasn't the case, but it certainly seems to be the case now.
How has your educational experience impacted your life?
I became a much more well-rounded person. I certainly became much more tolerant of people. Um, I'm much more comfortable in my own skin, and I'm much more comfortable. It made me become much more comfortable when I was around people of different ethnic backgrounds, um, whether it be white or Hispanic or whatever the case may be, because of the fact that I went to an integrated school and had an integrated education. And I think it set me up for life to be able to be a much a tolerant person. Um, and I said I have friends that I made in school that we still stay in touch today because of I think I had an impact on them, and they had an impact on me in a good way, and so we have stayed in touch. And I think I can't think of it anything other than it was a positive experience for me.
Final question, and thank you so much for giving us your time. What can the Black community do to improve Black academic standing, in your opinion?
People do to improve Black academic standards.
Standing.
Standing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to. I think we need to not be afraid to. I think Black, in some cases, people are afraid of furthering education. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Ask questions. You know, learn more, and there's always room for improvement. But the biggest thing is don't be afraid. The world there's so many opportunities out there, but
Mm-hmm.
so I think the community as a whole needs to just not be afraid to ask questions and to educate themselves on on what is out there for them. Because if the parents know, then it'll trickle down to the children and those children and those children's children. So just educate yourself about what is available and ask questions and don't be afraid, and also be involved in the students at an early age, and continue to be involved and encourage those kids, those students, encourage them, and try to be encourage the students to be involved in school, and encourage them to want to learn. Make an environment, and create an environment for that the kids can learn and want to learn. And I think that's where it starts at home, with having an environment where the kids can learn, have a safe place and a comfortable place for the students at an early age, and expose them to books, which is what I did. I mean, I couldn't afford to buy books, but I went to the Goodwill or thrift stores, and my daughter always had books. At an early age, she always had books on her nightstand. They might not have been brand new books, but she had some books, and that's one thing I always wanted her to do, is to always want to read, because I like to read.
She talks about that.
And so you have to learn how to, I think that's where it starts at. Start building that curiosity, because I think books build curiosity. So make things like that at an early age. If you make books available, books open up a whole world of curiosity for students, and you open up that world to them. They're going to want to learn. They're going to want to learn more. So it starts at home, just to build a curiosity, and to create an environment so they can learn, so they want to learn. And it just goes up to, from the time that they're in elementary school. Just keep encouraging them, and encouraging that education, and trying to be a part of it. A lot of times, parents are not able to help students with education, or with help them with their homework, because they never were exposed to some of the things that the kids are learning today. And that's okay, but you still encourage them, or try to create an environment, or make sure that they have access to resources that can support them when they're in school. So I think it starts at home. A big part of it does.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's the interview. I hope that it was fun for you as it was for me. So that's,
I
that's
can
it.
be a little bit wordy sometimes, and I apologize for that, but that's just me.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. And besides, that would makes you a good interview.
Okay.
So